Good afternoon. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'll try to use my outside coach's voice, but if you can't hear me or you need clarification, please just write it on a note card and I'll try to provide that clarification. I'm going to start this meeting by saying thank you for being here. I'm inspired by the number of people that are here and the community that's come together on this. I'm also going to say I apologize. As we go through situations that aren't perfect, we are going to take full responsibility. One of the major goals of West Haven School District is to improve our communication and our relationships across our district. This is a step backwards from that. I'm aware of that. That's 100% on me. We've done a lot of analysis to say, hey, where did we misstep? What could we do better? Because here's what we have. We have a community that's come together to try to really develop a plan to assist schools, come up with a playground for all students, and we're here. So not only is this a question of I want to go through our analysis and what we know, but then really the goal of tonight is how do we move forward as a group and make sure that our kids, our community has an amazing upcoming school year. So I'm going to go through some of that today. First of all, I'll just tell you, I'm a huge supporter of outdoor play. If anybody watched our most recent plant facility levy, a big portion of that was around outdoor play. Anybody that knows me, I'm a high energy person. If I didn't have outdoor play when I was a kid, all of my teachers would have retired within about 6 months. So I absolutely get that. I appreciate that. And I know that the research behind that says that kids that get opportunities to play outside will also be better learners in the classroom and retain more information. We absolutely understand that. So a little bit of background. All right, we're back. Okay. Now we're going to have more technological issues. So, as I was saying, number one, thanks for being here. And then number two, I'm really sad for these guys that we're here right now due to really great effort from our community. So I apologize. I apologize on behalf of West Ada. I apologize on behalf of our staff. We can do better. We know better. We can do better. So we will. I want to go through, as many of you know, I don't sit in this world. Like I don't make decisions on this stuff. So I really did what I would call a forensic analysis of our communications. And what that looks like is, I went back, as far back as our communication goes, to see what do we know from this situation. And I want to try to give some of that historical context. Now, these dates aren't set in stone, because what our forensic analysis tells us is what we have. Emails in our system get deleted over time, things like that. We also don't know telephone calls, things like that. So I don't want this to be, hey, this is exactly what happened. This is what we know of. In April of 2022 was the first documented conversation that we have seen between patrons at Seven Oaks Elementary School and the then principal. Now, if there's more, you win. I'm just telling you where our system goes back. So that's the first known documentation. It may have been earlier, and if it was, that's not me trying to be fictitious. That's how far our system goes back. None of that communication at that stage was with me. I hadn't seen that communication. June 26th, we received a media request, and they asked for comment on the parent initiative regarding playground. And our response was, West Ada supports local efforts to build an inclusive playground at Seven Oaks Elementary. We're incredibly impressed and appreciative of the fundraising support, especially for parents, and are determining how we can best support Seven Oaks. This effort demonstrates the very best of West Ada community. That doesn't change. This effort still represents the very best of the West Ada community. A shared desire for accessible playground was expressed. West Ada prioritizes playgrounds across 34 elementary schools. We look at our playgrounds consistently. Where Seven Oaks sat on that is probably about plus or minus 5 years. With the initiative from the PTA, we said, okay, how do we move this up? How can we move this timeline up a little bit? Initial engagement, the first email that I received, and I can only speak for myself, so that's not to say, the first email that I received was on October 10th. That was sent to myself and a couple of other people. Initial patron request for assistance. Email was received by district staff asking for support in providing ADA accessible playgrounds at Seven Oaks. On October 14th, there was a reply to that connecting the chief operations officer with this parent community. A meeting was scheduled, and October 27th was that first meeting. This is from our analysis of our communication. That was an in-person meeting here at Seven Oaks with district representatives, some community representatives, and the former principal. The district at that time proposed a 2-to-1 match. A 2-to-1 match with a $300,000 target. PTA at that time requested renderings of what that might look like, what type of playground that might look like. Again, I wasn't part of those conversations. This is what I understand. On November 30th, the initial renderings were delivered to the PTA. On December 14th, we received feedback. Some of the feedback was, we would like to add a wheelchair accessible merry-go-round, add ramps, remove the ADA Odyssey Hall, which is one of the pieces on there, add a burger shop, pet shop, ice cream stand, a set of microphones, and make sure that we have latex-free surfaces. That feedback was delivered to our engineers, which is KM Engineering, and we asked for individual pricing on some of those additional items. On January 9th, West Davis School District received communication from a patron asking for follow-up. On January 10th, a response was sent from West Davis School District said, I apologize for the delays in getting the playground equipment identified, the cost attributed with those. I'm working with the playground equipment supplier to get those. I'm hoping to have some of those as early as tomorrow. We did not meet that deadline. January 10th through February 2nd, we have several emails between KN, Garrett Company, which is the playground supplier, and district staff. On February 3rd, communication was delivered to Seven Oaks PTA with the original visual rendering and some optional add-ons. February 6th, an email was sent requesting district representative to attend the February 9th meeting. Due to a scheduling conflict, that wasn't possible, but a Zoom meeting was scheduled for February 21st with KM Engineering, district representatives, and stakeholders. On February 16th, a complaint was received through the Office of Civil Rights. I will get to that in a second, and kind of their role in this. On February 20th, an email was sent out from district staff that said, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'm not going to read this whole thing. This entire PowerPoint will be posted online with frequently asked questions. It said, unfortunately, due to the pending OCR claim filed against the West Davis School District, I'm not going to be able to make the Zoom call as I had originally planned. However, I want to give you an update. We are approximately 70% through this process, and this is where we're at as of February 20th. Let's talk a little bit about the OCR. The OCR is, and this is straight from their website, the Office of Civil Rights is a federal investigative arm of the U.S. Department of Education with jurisdiction in the following areas. That's where their jurisdiction falls. On February 16th, an anonymous OCR complaint, and it doesn't matter who it came from, where it came from, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is an OCR complaint was filed against West Ada School District. West Ada immediately re-informed our risk management firm. It's an outside firm, we informed that firm. Case was assigned to an outside legal firm and advised by counsel to minimize communication. I want to talk through that reduction of communication. That reduction of communication really happens so we don't cross wires. So we don't say, now you have the OCR, I'm going to get into this in a second, but you have the OCR as the mediator. When you continue to contact one another, then there's the three parties aren't agreeing. Because what we get is somebody says to OCR, well, West Ada said this. No, West Ada said this. No, the complainant said this. We don't even know who the complainant is. So that's why our legal counsel always advises, anytime there's an OCR, we have other OCR complaints that get filed, they always advise to minimize that contact with our parents or with the complainants. The complaint alleged at this time, there are 3 playgrounds at this school for various ages, and every playground surface, for anonymity, we left it as, is outside of ADA compliance. That's paraphrasing, we felt like he was getting too specific after that. So, not everybody lives in the OCR realm, so I want to explain who the OCR is. The OCR is a federal agency that oversees items such as this. When a complaint is filed, they ask West Ada to communicate with them and say, what can you do to remedy this? They ask the complainant, and those are the 2 parties, and they really act as a mediator at that point. They say, yeah, this is the law, this is what you need to do, these are your options to remedy this, and they work with our outside legal firm to come up with a solution. On February 16, 2023, the OCR complaint from the letter from the Office of Civil Rights states, OCR will investigate whether the district discriminates against individuals with disabilities by providing inaccessible exterior routes, play surfaces, and playground equipment at 7 Oaks. That was inclusive of all. West Ada School District immediately agrees that we are in violation of that. As soon as that came across our desk, we said, we agree. There's no dispute there. The OCR then gives us really a few options. They said, number 1, every playground that remains on that campus must meet these 4 requirements. Number 1, it must have accessible routes. Number 2, it must meet slope requirements. Number 3, the play surface must be in alignment with ADA. And number 4, the play equipment must be in alignment with ADA. This left West Ada School District with 3 options. Option number 1 was to remove all playgrounds from 7 Oaks. We didn't feel like that was a good option. Option number 2 was to replace all playgrounds with 1 ADA compliant playground. And option number 3 was replace all playgrounds with multiple ADA compliant playgrounds. We chose to begin with option number 3. We wanted to be able to replace all 3 playgrounds with 3 ADA compliant playgrounds. That was the first road we went down. In speaking with the OCR, we asked them specifically, West Ada specifically requested to replace the 1 playground with ADA compliant area and keep the remaining playgrounds as they stand. That request was explicitly denied. So, let's talk through a couple decision points. On May 1st, West Ada School District entered into what is called a voluntary resolution agreement with the intent to replace all 3 playgrounds with ADA compliant facilities. This VRA codified under section 503A. And this was one of the reasons we were inspired just to put this as part of the plant facility levy that we sent out. Due to substantial changes in the district's financial situation, which is directly in line with the OCR's guidance, an amended DRA has now been submitted to the OCR for final approval. On May 16th, West Ada School District sent a survey to former Seven Oaks principal and posted on the school's website an opportunity to provide input on the 3 play structures. Former principal sent this out the morning of May 17th. On May 16th, West Ada School District proposed play facility levy with $33 million designated to playground renovations was voted down. On May 17th, former principal and PTA sent out communications to families requesting feedback on playground upgrades. This is a mistake by West Ada School District. At this point, we knew that the plant facility levy had failed. This was a mistake by West Ada School District. We had sent it out the day before. We didn't realize it was going out. I apologize for that. May 24th, West Ada School District made a strategic shift in facility funding to prioritize the classroom experience for students in an effort to provide high-quality learning experiences within our budget constraints, resulting in the following cuts. Parking lots were limited. Parking lot repairs. Playground upgrades at 2 other elementary schools were completely taken off. Tennis courts at one of our middle schools was eliminated. Exterior painting as planned was eliminated. And then we limited the scope of the Seven Oaks Elementary project to 1 large ADA compliant facility. In June of 2023, input from 30-day community survey was reviewed, and we determined that the community at that point would like ramps we received a lot of input about ramps. So now I'm going to turn it over. That's what we know today. That's what our information has. If you have different information, please, I'm a pretty ethical person. I don't lie. I'm going to turn it over to Dave Reinhardt to walk through some of his information.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. My name is David Reinhardt, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the district. I just want to say I worked with a number of you on this project, and I came in a little late, but I do appreciate working with you, and it's one of my favorite parts of my job is working with the community on projects. This has been, as Dr. Bob mentioned, this has been an imperfect process because of some external pieces that have complicated it. But I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm going to talk a little bit about questions that we're hearing from you in email, phone calls, and just a general sense of the community. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing going forward and why this is, I think, a really good option for students. First big question, and Dr. Bob led into it, is why did we move to 1 big accessible playground versus 3? The long and short of it is, what we originally thought was a $300,000 playground. A playground itself is about $300,000. $400,000, you know, you can get a decent playground set. What happens is the cost escalates when you do site work, and if you noticed out here, asphalt had to be lifted because the slope wasn't right, and so you start inserting, if you've ever built houses, you know that the infrastructure is a big part of the price, and so we had to do a lot of digging deep and a lot of infrastructure to get this 100% accessible from the door to the play equipment itself. And so the project itself, you'll see in a minute, goes to about, for one site, goes to $250,000 when you put it all in. Engineering alone costs $120,000. So things escalate, and so we made the decision to as we pared down other projects in the district, we had to pare this one down as well, because total price was going to exceed $2.5 million. And we can't spend $2.5 million on every playground in the district. And so we made the choice to go to one playground and to make sure that it is completely accessible, as I mentioned, from the door to the experience of the play set. Everything is dialed in and up to OCR standards and ADA standards. I think the other question that can be asked of this is, why did you pull them all out before the school year started? And now we have just grass, right? Ultimately, that decision was one of two things. Construction, it was either a matter of having to do construction during the school year at 3 different sites, which we didn't feel was safe or good for students to be around, and certainly disruptive to the day. But more importantly, they weren't accessible. We've now had a suit filed against us from the OCR that said your playgrounds are inaccessible to people with physical disabilities. And so, because they are not, they had bark, they had deep edges, they had all the things that many playgrounds have at area parks. And so we had to make sure that everything that we have here is accessible to each and every student. So we made the decision, not popular, to take them away for a bit so that we could be ready for what we think is really a good playground once it goes in. Another big question that we know is out there, and it's on my mind too. That is, you all worked hard to raise $100,000, huge amount of money, probably one of the largest amounts of money of any school I've been around for such an item. That ultimately, because of the OCR complaint, we had to assume the cost, and so we've just assumed the cost, and that money will be, the PTA is forming a group that will work directly with me to work on a play structure, some outdoor activity that we can begin working on immediately that'll be good for all kids. So I've asked the president of the PTA to get together a small group, we can make a decision, and we can get moving forward, and that be used well. And we're going to work with you throughout that process to make sure the students have something really great, because that's a great honor that people bestowed upon you and entrusted you with. And my job now is to get you to a yes and get something really great built for students. Playground location. I think this is also one that's greatly talked about. I know I've talked about it with a number of you. The original playground, the original design of this building put the playground in what we call Area A, which is the one right up here by the parking lot, where it's designated to be now. That was, and I'll show you that drawing in a second. That was designed by them because this is really a unique site. To do anything else, you know, if you live in Eagle, you end up in water eventually. We're built pretty low, and this site gets low, and it gets low in sharp ways. My early background was as a landscape architect, and anytime you work with something with a deep slope, and you have to make it level, the costs skyrocket, because you're gonna have to start engineering walls, and it's not something that we can just go out on a Saturday and build ourselves. It's something that, because students are using it, we have to go through a long permitting process and an engineering process. We chose to put the new playground where the original playground was and open up the rest of the fields, the rest of the play area, to grass and to free play. Slope considerations, we determined that in studying the square footage, in order to accomplish the same amount of square footage, we would ultimately have to knock out the trees on what we call Site B, which I believe is where your swings were located, and it would go out pretty much to the neighbor's backyard. And so that brings up the area for free play. We decided to best respect the original architects, the original engineers. It's not ideal. no site here is. We had to pick one, and ultimately we chose one that was level, high, and accessible. And the most cost-effective because it's closest to the building. We had some feedback that perhaps we should have a fence between the parking lot and the play structure, the original Bennett. That seems like pretty good input. I think some people thought maybe we were fencing in the whole thing. It seems like a safety problem. We're not doing that, but we were thinking of doing something between the parking lot and the play area itself. This is the original drawing. So if you see parking lot, the building, this was designated as grass or free area, and the playground was designated here. Sorry. Yes. Yes. Triangular area. I'll show you in a minute how it all compares. I want to talk a little bit about what price looks like. The piece that's not up here is the engineer south, the $120,000. We're just getting word of. But just to give you a sense of what things cost now, the demo of what we have was $150,000. The turf itself, which we have to have for a playground, is $220,000. We can't put bark in anymore. We can't put gravel in or sand in. I think I was on asphalt as a kid. You know, and you just scraped it off sometimes, but it's not accessible. And so turf is our new norm for a school district. We'll take questions at the end. Now I want to just move, we've been through a couple of these pieces, historical context, our engagement, the OCR complaint, our decisions. I want to talk a little bit more about our current status. The playground is designed, and the drawing is now on the fence itself. It's up here, it'll be readily available to you. It's been on the website throughout. It's really a great design, and it's ultimately the best one we'll have in the district. This gives you a comparison, and I'm sorry if you can't see from the back. We had this set up for here, but this will be available online. If you look at the blue, essentially, that's what was there last year. Now rewind to the opening of the school in 1996. From 1996 through the early to mid-2000s, it was one playground. PTA has added through time, which has been wonderful for kids, these other components. So playground A shows the item itself and the total capacity. If everybody jumped on board, it's calculated that that's what it would take, or that's how many students it would hold. If you look at playground B, it's calculated it would accommodate 22 students. They all jumped on. Now, rarely is everybody on at the same time, but we applied slides and swings equally across. Playground C, which is in the back of the building, 26. The yellow shows the new playground. Doesn't completely make up for every person here in this spot, but we end up with 15. If everybody jumped on at once, there'd be 15 left spots. Now, I think the opportunity here is what we'll have to work out with the PTA to get to something that 15 students can play on, and then in terms of total capacity, we're equal. But the ultimate new piece actually ends up with more slides than we had originally, and has a lot of great opportunities for students. And it's available to all students. Current status. We're waiting on final approval. We have a design, we have regular meetings with them. We work, we answer questions, we adjust, but we're waiting that approval. We are working towards something being built this fall. There are no guarantees that will happen. There's some things out of our control. OCR approval, which we're working feverishly for, weather, supply, the stuff arriving, and the contractor. And I will tell you, we're so serious about getting this done that the contractor's on speed dial. Like, we'll call them on a moment's notice and say, it's go time, the stuff's arrived, and they'll work for us quick. But there are a couple things out of our control. We intended to have it done, it should have been open the first day of school. It's behind schedule. We resurfaced the area around here. We'll have the new play areas repainted and ready to go for the first day of school in a week and some change. We've purchased play materials, additional play materials, so that in the open grass, students have plenty of opportunities to play. I'm going to, some of you have met your new principal, but I think it's important that you hear from her to talk about like how recess will be done. And so I'm going to introduce your new principal, Principal Allie Jacobs.
Before Mrs. Jacobs starts, if you guys have questions right now, Katie and I will come around and just collect your note cards if you have them. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, hi, Seven Oaks. I just want to say how lucky I feel to be the principal at this school. One of the reasons I feel like that is this community is home. So thank you for the time to be involved in student education. Also, I want to shout out to our teachers who are here. We have many students in our building
what's best for the front row and scattered throughout here, the students. That's what this is all about. That's what you're here for, we're here for. It has been a rewarding and difficult process. I think we're moving to something very good, but none of us, myself included, I love seeing new things come up and I love seeing people excited about it. While we have to wait just a little bit longer, what ultimately ends up happening is a wonderful, accessible playground for our students. We believe that the teachers, all the teachers here, will make it a wonderful year for our students, and we'll continue to work towards something good with the PTA and conclusion with the OCR. We're going to, and we apologize that it's not just kind of anybody can say anything. We were afraid that it would get too many of one subject and some other people would be forgotten. So we're going to try to summarize the questions and people that gathered them, try to put them in groups, and try to answer them as we go. A couple of us will be staying around afterwards, also if you want to talk.
Okay, so the first question was, had the levy passed, would this even be an issue?
Yeah, and I'll say this. I'm gonna try to answer this really clearly. As we went through the levy, one of the things that I don't like, and I'm just gonna speak on behalf of myself as a voter, there's options, and you've seen them across the state, in which we, and I'll say we being educators, advertise levy with this like threat of, if you don't do it, this is what happens. I didn't believe in that. I still don't believe in that. I don't think that wouldn't make me vote yes or no, or maybe it makes me vote no. So here's what I would say. Yes, there was money allocated from the plant facility levy that was going towards playgrounds, not just at Seven Oaks, but at all of our elementary schools to address these such issues. That being said, we did not say, if you don't do this, this is what happens. I'll take the blame for that. I don't believe in threats for votes. That's just not a
That's
world
why
I.
levies don't pass.
That's,
because you
and
have
that's
to
fair.
playground.
16% voter turnout. We needed to do something to spread the word. 16%. That's pathetic. 16.
Here's what I'm gonna ask.
That's why levies don't pass, because people don't trust you and your word. That's why levies don't pass. That's
So-
why we're just gonna stick to quorum and ask the questions, and if we can't keep quorum, we'll just answer the question.
I want to hear from the people.
Sounds like they're getting.
Where can I see that OCR requires all playgrounds at Seven Oaks to be ADA accessible?
I would, yeah.
Hi. I'm not sure that they have that put in writing other than, in the actual DRA where we talk about all playgrounds need to be compliant. When this issue came up, I was on the phone the first time they said it with Mr. Gillen. When this issue came up, we again called OCR this week. And Mr. Reinhardt, myself, and Mr. Gillen were on the phone again. And yes, they did confirm again that whatever playgrounds we left on the property, it 1, it 2, it 3, has to be ADA compliant. And that is the ratio of equipment, that is access, that is the grades for access, and the surfacing. So that is. OCR, I asked OCR to do that, and they said that is not their job to put in writing.
must not be required.
It is actually a requirement. Unfortunately.
Well, I think the thing you can do is look at all ADA law. And ADA law says once you substantially change something, then you actually, like, I always use the example of if we needed to pick an old building and bring it up to, we decided to bring it up to fire code, we can't bring up 3 rooms and leave the rest undone. Once you start, you have to do the whole thing. So that's a general practice law, and that's embedded in ADA law.
So that kind of answers the next question. The swing set could have been adapted. Why was that removed? The surface could have been done in adaptive swings.
I can answer that. When it comes to ADA requirements, it's not just the piece itself, but it's the approach, it's the surface, and it's the optic. And so most of that cost is rolled up into approach. The other piece of it, and I think Jonathan Gillen closest on this, is that was our site with the biggest drainage issues, biggest water issues. And so that was the area the students were most likely not to be able to play in. You want to add to that, John?
Yeah, so in addition to the drainage issues, we also, if you walk through our playgrounds, we don't have playgrounds that have swings. So part of what we were taking out was also just the concern that we have with safety issues with the swings. Those were getting pulled out as part of the processing.
Next question is, what did you do with the playground? Did you donate it or throw it away?
Yeah, I can answer that. The pieces that were able to be salvaged now sit in our storage yard on Lenart. The pieces that are not able to be converted, when your playground sets are really sold as a kit. It's almost like a Lego set. You know, it used to be you could just play with Legos and build things, whatever you want to build. Now you have to build the exact thing. Playground sets are now sold that way. And so the things we can salvage are being stored and will be used other places. The things that are set particular aren't able to be reused and were destroyed. Yeah, there are things like swings that we'll use swings again and again. Swings, oh, I'm sorry, slides. Slides. Because slides are used, and slides do break in other schools.
How did you not anticipate the actual cost of the equipment and installation when you said $300,000?
Yeah, so I think as we started to work through the process and then identify the needs associated with the OCR and the conditions associated with the slope adjustments, that increased our costs as we worked through the process. So as we started to continue to evaluate costs and continue to
I have a follow-up question on that because that was part of that process, and when I saw those original bids, they were drastically lower than that. Why? Just because OCR is law, and it's got the prices increased 150%.
Let me answer that. For our slope,
No, I understand I'm in the construction world, but I saw the original engineering documents, and those documents, and I saw all three bids for all three of these. I sat here and walked the site with both those two gentlemen and the engineers. And those prices were drastically lower than that. So then how can OCR get involved all of a sudden that price go up 130 to 170%?
You're right. We're not gonna take any questions from the field. We have to stay over.
the slope in those three bids is not an OCR slope. Our grade must be 5% downgrade and 2% side grade. That was not what the bids were at. That was unfortunately why the cost substantially increased. That's why B and C, if you stand out and look at B and C from the graph and look up at the building, it's not a 5% slope with a 2% side.
So the original plans were non-compliant plans?
The playground was accessible.
So this
OCR's
is,
clarified that for us.
this is a question probably that you can answer, is will the planned playground limit recess time compared to prior years?
No, we've already adjusted our master schedule. They're getting the same amount of recess times. It just might not be at the exact same time. But the same exact recess time, we haven't had to add supervision or duties. All it looks like is it might be 50 minutes later or earlier.
Can you elaborate on that? Is like first grade gonna get to stay together, second grade all gonna get to stay together, or is it gonna be like two classes here, two classes
No,
there?
grade levels will stay together. It might be 2 grade levels or 3 together. So we'll have 2 or 3 recesses for the morning and 2 or 3 for the afternoon. Any other? Yep, the times might shift about 15 minutes from this previous year. Same amount of time for recess will be given. Grade levels will stick together. It might be more than one grade level at a time outside.
So are you saying that they won't have as many as they did, or they'll just be less than the same amount? So, as many, like, if they had 2 recesses last year, they're still gonna have 2 recesses, but they might be just slightly less time?
struggle to keep, they were built in anything between the 1950s to 2020. So they were built according to the standard of that time. At times, groups have modified them or added, sometimes under without the supervision of the district. Those are not necessarily compliant, and we work hard every year. Dr. Buck talked about the two we put on hold. The two schools that we put on hold were both designed to, are both broken systems now. Like literally, we have broken parts that aren't replaceable, and both of those are said to be as fully accessible playgrounds. And so we work at it a couple at a year because that's what we can afford given our current levy rate.
Seven Oaks has disabled pre-K students that are designated to our school. Shouldn't we be designating more funds for ADA playgrounds than schools that are not filters for students with disabilities?
There are students with disabilities at every single one of our schools. I mean, take it from anywhere from a student that has something that they're born with to something that is temporary because they had an accident. So every single one of our schools has students that have limited physical, emotional, or otherwise abilities that we try to address in the playgrounds.
How do you expect K-2 students to learn if there is constant recess happening outside of their class?
All I can say to that is that the first 10 to 12 years, that was exactly the site. I know the resiliency of our staff, our teachers, our students. I don't think it's going to be as loud as people think in those upper grades. They tend to be a little more active with other types of ball in the open fields. We're always, I'm around schools. I'm around schools every single day, and in all things, we monitor, we adjust, we learn, and we grow. We had to make a decision about where it goes. It was the decision that made the most sense, and it's the decision that's before the OCR.
Why were the alternative choices to make the playground surfaces accessible not considered, i.e. maintaining mulch, just replacing turf, and using donated PTA funds to accomplish this?
I can begin to address this, and it's as simple as the surface isn't the only issue. It's the structure itself, which has to have a certain percentage of the actual structure accessible by all students, regardless of their ability. So the structure has to change. Mr. Gillen let you know too, and you'll see this in city parks. I don't know what the parks are in Eagle per se, but I know the parks around me are all getting away from swings because swings tend to be one of the most dangerous things on our playgrounds. So you'll see new playgrounds built in most city parks without swings. I think it's unfortunate. I like the swing, but safety and our overall look for our district required us to get away from swing. So the surface is part of it, and we appreciate the offer. One of those sites is underwater quite a bit, so they all have to be addressed with something beyond we could spend some money on the surface, then we have to redo it in a couple of years anyhow.
And the surface itself, there's a handful of options that are ADA compliant. An individual needs to be at minimum able to move a wheelchair forward, backward, and stop. So standard mulch and standard garden chips are not ADA approved. There is one type of a rubber chip that can be considered. The problem with that rubber chip, if you look at the studies and the surveys, is while some mobility impaired students may be able to move on that, it does create dark and has less maintenance. Even with the turf itself, there are certain standards that OCR reviews. The turf is probably the one area we've received probably the most questions from OCR. It has to have a certain map height, it has to have a certain depth, it has to be inserted in a certain way that the height is measurable so that the angle and ridge coming off of the access surfaces is accessible. It's surprisingly more complex than just old days when I was, like you said, asphalt or hard chips. That's what we were all used to. How many schools in West Ada are ADA compliant?
So that's actually the next question. I think this will be our last question. We're at time. And then I think the best solution moving forward is to take all of these and put them on the FAQ and get you all of your answers so that you have answers in writing, and we can post the presentation there as well, because I know that's what you want, but this is yours. Are all of the other schools having their playgrounds building, are bulldozed, and are all West Ada Elementary playgrounds ADA compliant?
Sure, I can answer that. I can answer that they were compliant at the time they were built, and that we're hiring a firm to do a facilities assessment on all 58 campuses to determine our level of ADA compliance and to make a plan to get there. That's on the horizon. Those bids are due in 2 weeks, and then we'll hire that firm to survey our 58 campuses to answer that question.
So as of today, how many do you know of that are?
They're built according to the
That are
design.
current? Any of them?
I can't answer the question.
So you have no idea how many are ADA compliant?
I can't answer that question. I know it's brand new. Sure.
So, you heard what the only option to turn out or conquer. When we researched this before, so our community knows we did not take this lightly, right? This is a big deal. Why we would ask people for money, right? And that is on my mind. Anyways, so speaking to the options where you said you could do manufactured wood chips and maintain that. That was an option, to go in and take out the wood chips, fix the drainage, as we know was an issue on the kindergarten playground, and the fourth and fifth, drainage issues on the second grade never brought up ever. But those two were aware, like principal knew, teachers knew, everybody knew. To go in and do artificial turf would have required maintenance by the district, which looks like a lack of creativity from the district, because initially we said, we can't afford to go out to playgrounds, we're gonna raise money, because historically the district has never funded these, and we just knew we're gonna push for it and do it ourselves, and it'd be great if the district could give us money, but we're gonna follow the law, we're gonna go through the district procedures, we're gonna do it the right way. Correct? So we did it that way, and now OCR is just holding us to the law, which is fair, right? So we should have done something that didn't just tear down playgrounds. It could have been manufactured wood chips, and then, like, speaking to the equipment on the property that would have needing to be changed, when we all got the elementary playgrounds, that like, right? If there's no one goes, but they said this is your totally worth our time, so there's enough things that you can write up, like, along those lines. And this little thing over here, so installing those tiny little, not very expensive things into those regular wood chips would have meant to pay a lot. We didn't talk about this before, down the road, long way down the road. Are my incorrect in saying?
What she's describing to you is, to have an ADA compliant playground with regards to equipment. It is a proportion or a ratio. And it's, low-level equipment, mid-level equipment, high-level equipment. And there's a percentage ratio. So if we had, say, hypothetically just left one of the playgrounds in, taken off the bark chips and put on like a rubber manufactured chip, that still did not meet the ratio of equipment, so we would have to remove equipment, play equipment, and it also did not. But they also have to be meaningful accessible.
Exactly. They were meeting.
It's not just. And the other thing is, we also have to deal with access, because as you discussed, the fact that there's drainage problems is part of the drain. So on that one slide talking about literally the place where you
non-ADA compliant playgrounds, they have to not, when school starts next month.
You'll have a really good one.
Maybe
We're gonna wrap, we're here for private conversations now.
Based on
We're
the
gonna,
statement, it'll be done by the October 31st, we'll make sure. Playground will be done.
There is an amended VRA.
We have it. So,
It has not yet been approved by the OCR.
okay, so as right now, October 31st, there will be a done facility.
That's what we were working on.
I mean, basically.
We're waiting on the OCR. We're back.
I understand the emotion of this. None of us, nobody here likes it. And I understand that you went from 3 playgrounds to 0 for a bit. We're gonna draw things to an conclusion here. My name is David Reinhardt. I remain accessible, as does Dr. Bub, Mr. Gillen, every person here, Nikki Shepard, Amy White, and we remain accessible. We'll work towards a solution. It looks like Trustee Benetti wanted to say something.
So, hi everybody, my name is David Eddy, I'm the trustee for the zone in Seven Oaks. And I understand there are a lot of constraints. I'm not necessarily, I have a little bit more flexibility. So I, for one, appreciate everybody coming here. I appreciate the district for doing their best to answer the questions. I'll let you know that while I won't be able to necessarily answer everything, I'll stay here as long as it takes to answer everything that I can. And if I can't, then I'm just gonna say that I can't, or we'll just have to wait for them to be answered officially. Because I don't have any authority. I only speak for myself. I don't speak for the board. I don't speak for the administration. My standard disclaimer. But I understand that people have questions that they want to get answered, so I want to do everything that I possibly can to answer that in a fair, honest, and transparent way. And I'll stay here till midnight if I need to. So I'll be here after.
Yeah, and I would just say that, I'll echo those comments. Number one, thank you for being here. Our board chair is here as well. Lorraine, thanks for being here. I will stick around and answer questions. I'll just speak to our staff. I know I have a million things going. They have other commitments they have to do. If you have questions, I'll do the best I can. I don't live in playgrounds. If you ask me about play surfaces, that's just not a world I live in. I'll do the very best I can to answer these questions for all these field and find those answers. So, thank you for being here. If you need to leave, leave.